Hey friends, Dr. Russell's Great Gatsby Book Club, Episode 3, Chapter 3, where we start to finally learn a little bit of tea about Gatsby and even more tea about Nick, which is what I'm excited about. I have my coffee, I have my notes. Let's just get right into it. So, we finally learn in Chapter 3 about these epic parties that Gatsby has, which have decorations and liquor, which they're not supposed to have, remember, because it's prohibition and alcohol is illegal. There's all these servants. There is a whole orchestra, like a whole one. And then these like really ridiculous sort of circus performers. So these parties are epic. Nick gets invited to a Gatsby party finally. And then we hear all these rumors about Gatsby, right? So one woman says he killed somebody. Someone else says he was a German spy during World War One. He gets all these calls from everywhere, right? Like, oh, Chicago is on the line, Philadelphia is on the line, and we don't know why that is. And then someone says later that he's a bootlegger. A bootlegger is someone who makes illegal alcohol, essentially, and sells it. So there's your 1920s vocabulary word for the day, bootlegger, someone who makes alcohol illegally and sells it, or manufactures it somehow and sells it. Um, so then Gatsby kind of says this really, or I'm sorry, Nick, our narrator, says this very interesting quote. It's on page 25 if you want to take a look at it. But he says, "It was a testimony to romantic speculation he inspired that there were whispers about him from those who found little that it was necessary to whisper about in this world." So this is a real commentary from Nick about the world of the book, and also Great Gatsby. So just for the sake of like really thinking this through, I want to kind of break down this quote, right? So it was a testimony, right? Meaning it's sort of evidence to this fact. It shows us this, to romantic speculation. And that's really what everyone's doing. I think about Gatsby as being mysterious in the way that like Beyonce is very mysterious. So think about the fact that Beyonce rarely posts on social media, and then when she posts her pictures on Instagram, right, she never has captions to them. She doesn't give a lot of interviews ever, and yet we talk about Beyonce all the time, right? We want to know whether or not Jay-Z is cheating. We want to know if they're really part of the Illuminati. Like Gatsby is like that dude. He's like the Illuminati guy. And so this romantic speculation, what he means by that are all of these rumors, but also the fact that everyone is like really enjoying all these rumors. Again, there are entire articles written about Beyonce when she has said nothing except give it in her lyrics, maybe. Um, so that's the romantic speculation that he inspired. So there are whispers about him. So everyone is saying these things, these rumors, in very quiet ways, right? They're whispering them at parties. They're leaning in close to sort of tell each other, like, "Oh, I think he killed someone." And these are people who, as we saw from the previous party that happened at Tom's side piece's special apartment, people who are always talking about A, other people's business openly, and B, talking about themselves, wanting to talk about what kind of cars they have, or like what kind of parties they went to, or who they know. So these are people who talk about other people and gossip about themselves and other people all the time. So what is it about Gatsby that makes them want to kind of whisper and do that in secret, right? When they, as Nick says, right, found little that it was necessary to whisper about in this world. So that's kind of where we are about Gatsby, right? So then in chapter 3, we finally get to meet this man for a hot, smooth second. We find out that he's also in his 30s, like Nick, and that he fought in World War One with Nick at the same time. Um, and then Jordan Baker kind of goes into this secret room with Gatsby. She comes out and she not telling what they talked about. So the book is called The Great Gatsby. This is why I'm bringing this up. The book is called The Great Gatsby. We're in chapter 3, and we still have absolutely no clue who this man is at all. Um, which is an interesting thing for a book to do. Normally, we know everything we need to know about the protagonist or the central character in a book by chapter 3, but in this case, we don't. But we do learn in chapter 3 some hot piping tea about Nick Carraway, and that is what I want to share now. So, Nick Carraway is like dating Jordan Baker. Sort of, right? What do y'all say? Like that people are just talking when they're not really like in an official relationship. He likes the fact that she's a golfer, a pro golfer, and kind of famous. He might love her, he might not. That's what he says. I don't. It wasn't love exactly, and then one page later, he's like, "I think I might love her." So I think he has commitment issues, and he don't know what he wants, right? He thinks she's dishonest, but he's like, "That's fine." However, he also has a whole entire fiance back home who he's writing letters to, talking about some, love Nick, and like gallivanting around New York City with Jordan Baker, who is definitely not his fiance. So at the end of the chapter, and here's where like the real tea starts for me, he says, "I am one of the few honest people I have ever known." Sir, let me just back up in case y'all missed this. Whole fiance, entire fiance, who he has not broken up with. She back in the Midwest, bless her heart, just writing letters to her boo thing, thinking that they are still engaged, not knowing, and he's telling her he loves her. He don't love her. He's really trying to figure out how he can break up with her so he can hang out with Jordan. Um, but he's one of the most honest people he has ever known. Now I don't know how Nick Carraway defines honesty, but in my mind, that ain't good. That you were like borderline cheating on your fiance with this other woman who you just met, right? You have not been there that long. And so that is a perfect example of what we mean when we say unreliable narrator. Can we really, if Nick is saying that he's the most honest person he knows, um, and then meanwhile, he's not being honest with his fiance, like that's a little sketchy, right? And that is why, so then we have to say as a reader, like, I don't know about you. It doesn't make the book any less interesting or the things that we're reading less important, but it is just good to like keep that in mind that this judgy man has a low bar for what it means to be honest or dishonest, and that is important. And so do all of these other people, right? Who have no problem gossiping about folks and exaggerating what it is they have and what they do. So who really is sort of this honest person in the book? And I think that we will figure that out in chapter 4 when we finally meet Gatsby and we figure out a little bit more about him. But you will have to watch the next video for that. And with that, I am signing off.